this video, I want to show you really 3 different approaches to glazing your little practice slab boxes that we did. I'm going to show pouring and dipping, and then I'm going to show using underglaze in lines and putting a transparent glaze over it. And I'm also going to show underglaze and glazing different areas separately. Now, all 3 of these boxes have been rinsed before glazing. You want to make sure that you rinse it. It gets off any dust, debris, loose things that might be on the inside. Now, for the underglaze for this one, I want to get underglaze in the lines. I have like a little scene kind of painted on here, or carved on. And I'm just going to put underglaze in the lines. It's very simple carving there, and I'm actually putting it on quite heavily, and then I'll sponge off a lot of the extra because I have a lot of little lines that are together. And then I have like a little mountain scene here. Okay, for this one, I'm going to be doing the underglaze in the design. This is similar to the way that we glazed our plates. And while I'm waiting for the underglaze to dry on the first 2, I'm going to prep the 3rd one for dipping. Whenever you dip, you may choose to wax the bottom. Remember that wax will not prevent the glaze from sticking, but it does allow you to clean it more easily. It kind of beads up on the wax. Now, when you're dipping and you're going to use wax, be very careful not to get wax any other place. So I'm going to go up about 1/8 of an inch on all corners, because remember that glaze will liquefy in the kiln and it can move. If you don't go up about 1/8 of an inch when you actually go to dip it, your glaze might be down a little too close, and when it moves, it could stick to the patty. But typically for the glazes that I have here at school, 1/8 of an inch is pretty good. Now, I'm just avoiding my name. I'm leaving my name unwaxed because I will intend to get the glaze in that. When you're done waxing, of course, clean your wax brush. Now, you just want to let that dry until it doesn't look white and wet any longer. When you're going to be dipping a pot in glaze, I usually tell people to grab one of the plastic trays that's in the classroom. You can use tongs if you would like we did when we dipped our Mignolica and Sgraffito pots, and you will also need a whisk. Now, when you find the glaze that you want, if you need help locating what card it's on, I can certainly show you. But you will need to whisk up the glaze really well to make sure it's evenly distributed. I do recommend that you experiment with the glazes that you intend to use on your slab pot, the glaze color combinations, to see what they look like. Now, as I said, you can use the tongs, but I'm going to just use the holding method, where I'm going to pretty much go in and get most of the pot except for one part of it. I'm going to hold it upside down and shake it just like we've done before. I can scrape off some of the extra. When it stops dripping when you hold it upside down, then you can set it aside and put it on the tray. And then all I have left to do is a small dip on this side to get the rest of it. So where I have the one dribble, I'm just kind of sponge that a little bit so it's not a heavier coat right there when I go back and I dip the other side. And while I'm holding it, I can go ahead and clean the bottom off. Now, you will remember that I did not glaze, or I didn't wax where I had my name, because I really wanted some of the glaze to go into my carved initials there. I have a little bit of texture showing, so I'm going to kind of work that in with my fingers where it's a little bit, I had some bare spots where the glaze wasn't covering entirely. There we go. And when it's dry enough that you can hold, then I can go back in there and I can get the other portion. I just want to make sure that I'm covering that. So I got the last side there. And I want to double check the inside. Sometimes people don't get the inside all the way. They might have a bare spot. You want to make sure that everything looks like it's covered well. If we look back on the originals, they're almost dry, and then I'll be wiping off a lot of my excess underglaze. All right, now that my underglaze is pretty dry, I'm going to take a rinsed out sponge and try to sponge off the exterior. Now you want to keep cleaning the sponge out. I'm leaving my lines with the underglaze in it, and I'm rinsing out my sponge as I go. Now, I want to show side-by-side comparison. You can see that this box that has the little landscape drawing on it has some very, very, very scratchy lines. The story behind that is this box I inadvertently let get bone dry before I got the design in there. This one, I carved it, cleaned it when it was all leather hard. So I was able to compress down any grog and like lines that I had like this. This one, again, it was really dry. So if you want to avoid that, just do your carving when you should, when it's leather hard. I had forgotten about this box, and I thought, well, I'll still try to save it. So the scratchy lines will show up a little bit with the glaze that I'm going to use, but I think it kind of might add to the look that I'm going to go for. Now, if you ever want to pour the inside, I always recommend that you pour first before you do the exterior. And you can pour directly from a bucket or from a jar. Just pour it back in. Do not pour it down the sink. Again, I pour first because if I inadvertently dribble, I can clean it off the outside before I do the outside. If you do the outside and then you pour the inside and you dribble, you can ruin your entire glaze job that you did on the outside. So I'm using Coyote glazes. This is Coyote Peacock that I just used on the inside. On the sky portion, I'm going to use Sapphire. And if my glazes overlap a little bit, I'm not terribly concerned. I'm going for kind of a painterly effect on this. So because I have a smooth surface here on the sky, I'm going to do 3 coats. All right, I have finished the 3 coats on the sky, and now I'm going to do the middle ground color, which is Rainy Day. But because I have the texture on this area, I'm just going to keep it at more like 2 coats. So it will have a bit more of a transparent look to it. All right, my middle color is pretty dry, so now I'm going to go ahead and go to the last color, which is going to be my green color. And again, because I have this texture down here, I am going to use 2 coats rather than 3, so I have more of a transparent quality to it. It is a Celadon, and it's designed to be transparent. All right, so that's 1 coat. Now I'm going to do a 2nd coat. These are not thin coats either. These are 2 good thick coats of this peacock that I put on there. Again, I'm not really worried about overlapping because in the case of this design, I'm good with it kind of bleeding and blending a little bit because I want it to look very nature related. Now, on the bottom, I have a slight indent. So to get a little effect, that looks kind of nice, I'm going to add a little bit of the peacock down there. Then I can sponge off around it and leave a little bit in that squared portion. I kind of like to have a little bit of a, it's not really deep enough to leave it solid, so I'm leaving it kind of vague. And wipe up 1/8 of an inch on the side. We need to make sure that it's not going to run. Now, when we go to do the large slab project glaze, remember that one of the requirements is that we have a contrast between the interior and the exterior. And an easy way to do that is to layer another glaze. If it's all one color, you could easily just layer another glaze on the inside of the wall to give yourself a little bit of a contrast. Now, you may have already created contrast through something else, through texture, pattern, whatever it may be, but this will help if you need it. Last one, now that my glaze is dry, I can go ahead and take a needle tool and chip out anything where I made a mistake. Once you have completed the glaze on your piece, then clean your table off to make sure that you get all glaze and debris off, and then you can make the kiln patties. When you make your kiln patties for your stoneware pieces, we always make it out of stoneware clay. The kiln patty is a sacrificial waste piece of clay. We make it thin like a tortilla. In fact, this one is even a little thicker than it should be. Thin like a tortilla, and typically it's about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch bigger than the base of the pot. This one was not for this piece, but I just brought it out here to show you. You can see that if you have a careless application of glaze, that perhaps the glaze might either run or it will stick if you just left it on the bottom. And the kiln patty is there to catch the glaze, so it prevents it from going onto the kiln shelf. If it's stuck to your piece, you can always break the kiln patty off with a hammer or a tool, but it's better than getting it on the shelf. Now, for my students, when you make kiln patties, I don't require that you use a rolling pin. In fact, I recommend that you don't use a rolling pin because we're going so thin, sometimes with the rolling pin it tears or sticks. So the first thing I'm doing is just flattening out a piece of clay with my hands. So you can see I'm going kind of bigger. This should be enough clay that I can get all 3 kiln patties out of this one piece. Usually for one of these, I tell someone the size of a golf ball is plenty big for you to make a patty out of that. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to stretch it on the table by kind of throwing it down, and I'm going to let the side that's closest to me hit first, so hopefully it will stretch. So as I do that, the side closest to me hits first. And I'm just stretching the kiln patty, and it will soon even the thickness of it. And again, I want to go very, very thin, like a tortilla. And if you're making patties at your table and you have extra and you see, you know, a table mate might need one, feel free to offer it to them. Once you roll out your patty, be sure to wipe your hands off. You don't want to have any clay on your hands, which you will transfer to your glazed piece. So I'm now going to set my pots on top of the patty, okay? And I want to leave about 3/4 of an inch of clay all the way around the base of my piece. I'll scoot this up a little bit more. There we go. So this kiln patty, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch is enough. Now remember how I said make sure that you have cleaned your table off before you do this? Also, please make sure that you're not setting the patty on a dirty spot. Like, don't pick it up and set it in glaze. It will defeat the purpose. If you get glaze on the back of your patty, I'm gonna have you remake it. You'll have to start all over again. And sometimes if it's just a little bit small, like this one might just be a little bit small, I can take it usually and stretch it one last time. And that stretched it a little bit more, and that is large enough now. So for your boxes, when you have your kiln patties made, set the kiln patty flat on a wear board, again making sure that the wear board does not have glaze on it. Make sure it's flat and not curled up. And you will fill out your kiln ticket just like we did for the plates, but this time the difference is on the final question you want to give it a check mark or say yes that you did make a stoneware patty 3/4 of an inch bigger all the way around. Also make sure that you have checked, you know, has the pot bottom and the corners been wiped clean. If you see anything at all, you want to get that wiped up, again, about 1/8 of an inch. If you have it in a texture like your name on the bottom, that shouldn't be a problem. You will do the exact same thing for any time we're firing a stoneware piece. So like on your large slab pieces, you'll do the same thing as far as the kiln tickets and patties. So hopefully this was informative on using the dip method, the pour method, the paint method, and the slip trailing method. You can use any of those for your little boxes. And here are the finished examples. I hope that you found this video helpful for understanding how we do pouring on the inside. We can brush over textures and underglaze with transparent celadon glazes, how we dipped and we added a contrast color on the interior, and how you could also pour and use a combination with the bulb syringe and do detail painting.